Welcome to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlow. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living. Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show.
We have Jana tonight talking education and how that breeds community and all the details there. I'm really excited to hear her presentation, and she's going to drive it and share her screen. And then, as always, please pitch in, ask questions. I know she's open to that. I'll turn it over. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Thanks, everyone. I think, first of all, I want to apologize for anybody that showed up Saturday morning. I love this group, and I'm excited to be given the opportunity to present today. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to jump right in. Sometimes I can talk a lot, and I want this to be very collaborative, so I intentionally made my slides a little more simple so that I wouldn't just be talking about my bullet points and really doing a discussion. But I am very excited to talk about this because it's been a very successful strategy for my business. And you'll see why as we go through the presentation, why I think it's so great. So I am going to try to go full screen. Can you guys still see the presentation?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. It's a no-brainer. Community education for leads, using your voice and passion to reach your ideal clients. So a little bit of context here. I have worked in senior living for a long time, but most of my experience is in the state of New York. And 3 years ago, I moved to Arizona. In New York, I had the advantage of a very robust network of people in the profession that I knew. So being a business owner was actually pretty easy then, just because of my connections within the industry. When I moved to Arizona, I was working a corporate job in healthcare as a project manager. And around the spring, I knew that I was probably heading towards a corporate layoff. Healthcare is a little crazy right now. There's a lot of things going on, and the industry is definitely being disrupted. So I started my business in May and then got laid off in June. Jumped right into my business, started networking like crazy, but was finding that a lot of people already had their referral partners and little cliques, and it was a little bit difficult to get in front of my ideal clients. So that's when my idea of community education came about, and in my networking, talking with other, specifically in the independent living industry, it just naturally came together. So our agenda is introduction, who should consider community education, benefits of presentations, how to get started, the results, and Q&A. But of course, please ask questions throughout. You can either just shout them out or interrupt me or however we want to do it. Very easygoing. Already did my backstory, but also just so you guys know, this is a huge plug for the RAL Room too. When I got laid off, I really wanted to jump into opening residential assisted living homes, and that's still ultimately my goal. I want to eventually have 5 of them. I realized that I wasn't quite ready, and one of the tools that helped me was the RAL Room calculator. I had started touring homes. I explored the lease option, I explored purchase option, and the calculator really helped me to make an informed decision on what was right for me at that time. And really what I needed was to utilize my skill set in a way that wasn't as financially impactful, given a lot of situations that I was going through at the time. So that's why I decided to do senior living advisory. And I got started networking right away, had the opportunity to place my first client within the first month, and then really realized that I was onto something. So here's what I feel are the benefits of, I need to try to move this little thing. Benefits of community education. I believe it equals qualified leads. It positions you as an expert in the industry. If you keep a kind of rotation of consistency, it keeps you top of mind for those places that you're speaking at. If you do it in the way I'm going to show you, it gets you in front of the ideal right audience. It's low cost and eventually it's low effort, because once you define your topics and get your flow, you can reuse them at certain points and for different audiences. So it's a resource you have that I think in the industry, somebody might call it evergreen. Do we have any questions so far?
I would just say, I think it's super smart to find your foray into this space. Doesn't have to necessarily be at least the operator path, doesn't have to be going right into operations. I think it's super wise to, just like anything, if I'm comparing it to the real estate space, some people get started in the wholesaling side just to understand how deals work. And there's all these different, and this is a much more righteous mission than wholesaling and real estate, but I just think that was a wise move, and I'm super pumped to hear the rest of this.
Yeah. And so one of the catalysts was when I first moved to Arizona, one of the projects I worked on was with nonprofits in my area to launch a senior roommate matching program. It was because it was nonprofit, they had no marketing budget. And this is really how they got the word out about the program, was through speaking engagements. And so I remembered how impactful it was for that program. Thought, oh, I should employ the same tactics for my own business. So now I'm going to walk you through exactly what I did. So if you have questions, or I think this will probably generate ideas for each of you in your own areas, but this is what I did. So the first thing I did was content development. And the reason I did this is because I wanted to know what would attract the right audience. So I called libraries, senior centers, any independent living centers to gauge what kind of topics older adults were wanting to be presented on. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be about senior living that your presentation is. I think there are a lot of ways to connect what you're knowledgeable outside of senior living with senior living. And I'll share with you some of my presentations that kind of correlate, or I made them correlate in some way. For the senior living centers, independent living centers, a lot of them wanted more like hobby type topics. So I love yoga and I love meditation and health. So I used some of those things that I love and I'm interested in and translated it into what out of what I love would benefit seniors. So I did a breathwork class for seniors when they're feeling chronic pain or missing family, some simple techniques for them to relax their nervous system and feel a little better. So things like that. So I jotted down all my ideas, all the research, and then out of those developed 3 standard presentations that I do. And one is on levels of care in Arizona. I have a presentation that walks through independent living, assisted living, memory care, all the way up to skilled nursing. And it's specific to Arizona, how to look up Arizona state website to find some different, if there's any complaints or any survey results that are unsatisfactory. And then I do one on breath work. And then the other one is just on general health and wellness and nutrition. So I started with independent living centers, mostly because it's free to speak there and they're always looking for people. So these are like the big active 55 plus communities that are really vibrant and thriving. So it's also been just one of the best referral sources. I have a few that now I'm in rotation with quarterly to present on different topics. And then because it's independent living, there are assisted livings generally associated with these facilities, but it has gained me clients that need to now graduate up to assisted living. So it's been a very good source of referrals. It's also good practice. So you can really perfect your content and your presentation skills. And again, it's a good audience. And these actually aren't like steps per se, but I did actually focus on independent living centers first. Then I focused on my community. So I have two places. I have a place in North Phoenix and a place in Scottsdale. And I just started going very local. It's in my neighborhood, calling those senior centers and getting in there as a member of the community and as a professional business owner. And we can go, I have some things saved for Scottsdale to walk you through what it looks like for most places. And we can look at that too. I also visited libraries and other city venues. This hasn't been as fruitful. I think it's a much more cumbersome process to get in, especially the Phoenix libraries. It's a pretty large town and there's a whole RFP process to it. But I have given some smaller library presentations, not as well attended by the right audience, but still could position you as a knowledgeable person in your industry. Then I set goals, and my goal continues to be one presentation a month while I continue to measure it, because this still is a new strategy even for myself. I've been doing presentations since August, and I book one a month, and then I try to measure the results so I know exactly how fruitful they're being. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So results, how has this helped my business? First of all, it's given qualified leads. I have 3 families that I'm currently working with that are a direct result of my speaking presentations. They're at very early stages of the lead process, but I do know that when it's time to place their loved ones, I will be their referral agent. It positions me in thought leadership. So I become an expert in senior living, but also in the other topics that I'm presenting on. The other thing I like about it, it keeps you obligated to be informed. So if you're speaking on levels of care in your state, it forces you to be up to date on any changes that are happening so that you can speak to it and refresh your presentations. And then for me as well, this is a big one for any introverted people, that soft skill development. I am amazed at the comfort level I have in a short time of speaking in front of strangers. It's been a huge boost for my confidence, and it does reassure me that maybe I do know what I'm talking about sometimes. So that's been the results for me. Monetary benefits, but also a lot of intangible benefits and long-term. I went through that really fast. So I want to share with you a few of the things, unless there's questions right now, but I'd love to show you one. I can walk you through one of my presentations, and then I'll show you in my community what it might look like to become a public speaker. So I'm going to stop sharing this. And then let me show you an example of a presentation first. So this is my presentation. I feel like aesthetically it might need to be updated a little bit, but just about navigating care choices. I have one that's specific for Arizona and one that's for Arizona/California, because there is quite a bit of, especially when you're closer to the border, there's people from both states around that will attend these presentations. Really, I just go through a little history about myself, tell them what I do always so that I stay top of mind. And then I get into the types of care settings so they can understand what's involved in each setting. And I find that a lot of people in the community tend to lump senior living all together. So this kind of breaks out what each level is. I always review the cost because I want people always to start realizing the cost of senior living is pretty great, and it's often or mostly not covered by insurance. So I go through the different levels of care. Again, it's specific to my state, so I sometimes will use national averages, but I like to keep it as local as possible. So I just go over the levels of care. And there's usually questions at every level of care. And I'm always amazed at how little the general public knows about senior living. So this is a big ask, pretty much across the board. I get asked to present on levels of care quite a bit. And then I walk them through how to look at Medicare's ratings and the state's ratings for facilities so that they can gauge if there's been any grievances or violations, which you would think would be counterintuitive since I am a referral agent, but I do know there's going to be people that aren't going to use an agent. They're going to want to make the informed decision themselves, and I want to give them the tools to make the best decision. Well, it seems counterintuitive. I think it's the best thing to do. So then we go through how there's different pay structures in assisted living, because a lot of people are very confused about the base rate and then what could be added on. I think this kind of shows people why it's important to investigate cost a little further. And it's a kind of plug for the home care model, because typically the care home model is all inclusive versus all the add-ons that you get with the facility assisted livings. Here in Arizona, we don't have care stars. We do have levels. They basically mirror California stars, and each state has their own sort of way that they determine care levels, but they're all basically the same. And we talk about a la carte so that they can understand that there's going to be costs that aren't necessarily part of the base rate. You get the idea of providing a resource and knowledge and showing your expertise and positioning yourself as that expert. So again, more free education for people. And then we get into the residential care homes, where I spend quite a bit of time because I like to advocate for this model. And then I provide some recommendations for them. So if they're not going to utilize me as a referral agent, these are the things I would want them to know so that they can find the right place for their loved one. And then I show them how to check their licensing and what to look for. I do also, and then types of citations. I know that we have homeowners on here, so I do also want to say that when I work with clients, I am very holistic about citations. I do understand that there are probably some that are nonsense, and what I really teach people is how to see through the ones that are truly care related versus semantics of that particular state. And then I always close it with trying to sell myself a little bit, but not in a pushy way, hopefully. And always tie it back to my why I do this. And this is my Nana Lydia, she was my family emergency, my adopted Nana. She actually came to me out of that senior roommate sharing program that I mentioned at the beginning. And then this was my first placement, Francisco. And I love this man. I still go see him. He had requirements of having a place to do calisthenics. He still does morning calisthenics. Every morning he's out in the backyard doing regular, he still does push-ups. He's amazing. And I knew that the care home model would be the right model for him. And he's living his best life in a house full of women that he adores. So it's awesome. So that's an example of one of the presentations that I give that has been pretty impactful. The other thing that I want to show you is what a typical process might look like, especially for community senior centers. So I targeted Scottsdale because I am in Scottsdale a lot, but it's also a higher socioeconomic area. So it's a good way to be in front of the right people. So let me share my screen again. I'm going to show you. Oh, I think I have to. Don't mind me when I talk to myself. It's just, I think it's my project management personality. Okay, now I can share. I'm talking myself through the barriers.
There you go.
All right. So I wanted to share this with you too, because when I started, again, cost was very important to me. I'd been laid off from my corporate job. I had some personal things going on, tying up some of my finances. And this was one of the only ways that I could think of to get in front of the right audience. When I wanted to target Scottsdale, that's when I started to realize that some communities do have a pay to play type of model. And I think it's becoming more and more common, which is why I wanted to make that part of tonight's talk, just because I think this is probably going to become the norm in the future of having to pay to present. So for Scottsdale, they want you to become a sponsor, and you might see this in your community as well. So because I was financially starting out, I did this program this year, the educational sponsorship. For $500, I got to do one workshop in 2025. But out of that workshop, I did get a referral. So I am going to up my sponsorship for next year. And I'm actually looking at this level 3,000 sponsorship because it gets me to be an exhibitor. And one thing about Scottsdale is there's a lot of older adults that come here during the winter, and I would be in front of a very large audience twice with this package. And I think that's important. And then the right to display company publications in the senior center, because that is a population that's still grabbing tangible assets to learn more about services in their community. So this is probably what would be very high end as far as needing to pay to present and teach workshops. It goes all the way up to 25,000. So huge variance. But again, this has been a very useful strategy for me that I'm willing to pay more money to expand on it next year. I would say from a project management perspective, measuring the results, this was a very effective lead strategy. And that's why I wanted to share it.
Jana, I have a lot of questions and comments. The first thing I just want to comment on is that I do have a question. You said with the $500 sponsorship, you got one referral. What other types of leads did you get from that type of investment? What do you expect from the $3,000 investment next year?
Yeah, so I think that $500 investment, that's the only lead that I will get. I got to speak at one senior center. And so the other thing about a lot of these places is you can't collect names and you can't outright sell. At independent living centers, there's a little bit more freedom. I think maybe the nature of the business, libraries and senior centers, I think they feel more of a need to protect that elder from giving information out. So they have to come and ask for a card. Like I can't collect anything from them, but they can collect a card and a brochure from me. So in that case, it was a son that happened to be at my presentation and he needs to find a place for his mom. And actually that lead has not even, so none of the leads generated have actually converted to an actual referral, but the probability is very high. So that's why when I look at, I attended, I think this will answer your question. Why I'm going upwards is I attended some of the expos as a visitor to look at them. and gauge how many people are attending, what type of businesses are represented at it. And in Scottsdale, it was so well attended. I did not see another placement agent boothing there. I didn't see any assisted living homes represented there. There were facilities for sure, but no individual homes.
Running a residential memory care home is not just a calling, it's a maze of licensure, paperwork, zoning regulations, and day to day challenges that can feel overwhelming. That's why so many successful operators partner with Legato Living franchise. Legato Living does more than just help you open a home. They help you open it the right way so you can stay focused on what matters, providing exceptional care to those living with dementia. And once your doors are open, it can get lonely at the top. As a Legato Living franchisee, you are never on your own. Legato Living offers ongoing operational support from staff training and owner conferences to systems, cultures, and quality assurance because a home is only as good as its operator, and great operators deserve a great partner. If you're ready to open a residential memory care home that truly makes a difference, visit Legato Living and start with confidence today.
So definitely felt like there was a gap and that I could represent that gap.
Yeah,
And
that's really
normally, from a research perspective, if you wanted to gauge whether something might be good to sponsor, I would ask how many attendees do you get at these expos? What is the age range? They usually have all of that demographic information.
okay. The other question I had was what people are normally going to this? Is this what percentage of seniors are going that could potentially be placed? What percentage of people like you who are just scouting it out? What percentage of have a rough idea of who goes to these cities sponsored events? And I'm wondering, like, hey, if I'm leasing to an operator, or if I'm an operator in that area, would that be a good thing for me to go to talk to people and find leads in whatever aspect of this?
Yeah, so I'll go through like the different each area. So independent livings for me have been that's my ideal client, right? Because in my mind, there's a high chance they're going to need a higher level of care at some point. And everyone there is living at the independent living. And I can count on so typically there might be 10 to 20 attendees. So you might think that's small, but out of those 20, statistically, 70% are going to need a higher level of care. So if I'm the one that's there presenting and forming that relationship, I feel like chances are they're going to choose me as their agent. I think there could be room for a homeowner, like an assisted living homeowner, to form the same type of relationship. There's bound to be independent living residents that would much prefer a home model when they need assisted living level care. So I could see that being a good referral partnership if there were local, just independent livings. The two of the ones that I speak at are full continuums, but I still guarantee that not all of them are going to stay within that same system.
Okay. No, that's really good information.
So then I'll tell you about senior centers. Senior centers are a little different, and it depends on whether they're designated senior versus community. So in some centers, it's multi-generational. You get a much broader audience, and there's always going to be people in community centers and libraries. That's sort of their safety hub. They may be like there's a few homeless people, so there's those outliers, but I would say it's not a majority of who attends. When I do community centers and libraries, it's usually newly retired people that are like wanting to just stay involved, and they attend all kinds of programming all the time. A lot of snowbirds here, so they might be themselves 60, like retired, 65, 70, early 70s, but some of these people are still working with their parents.
Yeah.
So we're entering a very interesting space of so many different demographics. I'm starting to help my parents, but one of my parents still has a parent that they're caring for. It's a very interesting dynamic right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we are in this generational, the wave that we talk about is there's the crest of the wave and then there's the bottom. There's a whole, like you just said, there's a whole generation that's starting to be caring for their parents and need the care. The sandwich generation. I
Yeah,
like
sandwich
that.
generation.
The last comment I wanted to say is I love how you took the tools from the RAL Room and applied them. And guys, I just want to make a public service announcement. Like every time you digest content from whether it's the podcast or the calculator or a going through a module or listening to a recording, it's an opportunity to learn and be, yes, there's the information that's being said, but there's also the communication of how it's said. There's the learning about the speaking part that all of us in this community need to be able to articulate in a way that people are going to understand. And the reason I went to, when I was at the meetup in Phoenix, the reason that I went and listened to Isabel is not because I needed to learn the information she was saying. It's because I wanted to learn the way she speaks the information. So every chance that you get to listen, be multimodal in the way that you're listening so that you can take the business owner's approach of working on your business instead of in it, because you can certainly tap into both when you're listening to information. And the materials and the content of the RAL Room are not just the presentation and the information, but it's also 2 layers deep if you're looking at it the right way. So I think, Jana, what you were saying is you were doing that. So good job.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now, and I'm sure other people have comments and questions.
Oh, I'm seeing if there's any questions in the comments. So adult children, senior centers. So I am an adult child, right? So I'm 47. I don't hang out at senior centers. I don't know how to reach like my generation. I have had success on Facebook. So I'm in a Phoenix. I'm an expert in a Facebook group. And Ken, to your point, that's where a lot of adult children my age, maybe like to mid 50s, 60s, they're on Facebook a lot. So I became a expert on senior living advisory in this caring for our aging parents group in Phoenix. And it's growing. It's run by a lady. I had to pay to be the expert. So again, I'm measuring if there's any results. I have not had any referrals from it, but I have been able to present to that group through a webinar and definitely have had some phone calls from it. Just nothing has turned into a client, but a lot of that age group is heavily involved in different Facebook groups. Independent living, and I think independent living is very broad. So I have presented at those like apartment complexes that look like 20-year-olds would live there. There's a bar and there's pickleball courts, and that's another place where those older adults are. So like 55 and up in those active communities would be a great target to talk to adult children that still have aging parents, because now like they're in senior living, but they're young. In a few years, I can live in senior living. Crazy to think about. Aaron, is your hand up?
It is. Yes. Thank you for the presentation. This is a really cool approach. And actually, some of the stuff my wife Andrea has been doing kind of mirrors this track of trying to build some type of local credibility and come from a genuine place of desire to make an impact in the community, and then ultimately start writing on the topics and become a thought leader, etc. But my question for you is, so neither of us have formal healthcare background. We don't come from a background of senior care other than our experience with our own family. So for folks who don't have that traditional background, are there ways you can think of to gain that credibility a little more quickly without that kind of academic or professional tie-in? What are ways you can accelerate that curve and start building trust on that level?
That's a really good question. I know several people locally have become, there's an organization called CSA, Certified Senior Advisor, if anyone's heard of that. I looked at it. It gives you some education, and I do think you have to take a certification test. So that would be one way to establish that something about what you're talking about. The other thing that I would do, Erin, is try to take a different area of life and translate it to senior living. So when I give like a breath work talk, even though it has nothing to do with referrals, it still builds that relationship with them. So you're building that know and trust factor. It might not be in relation specifically to senior living, but people are only going to buy from the person they know and trust. So it solves that for you. And then this is hard for me, but all you really need to do, you just have to have a little bit of knowledge over the general public. And I'm sure you guys already have that. So I think even with talking about this tonight, I was like, I've just been doing this since August. How am I going to talk about it? But I know it's been successful. And I was hoping I was maybe a little bit more advanced in this type of lead generation than the people on the call. And same with like this marketing vertical that I'm thinking about. I am not a marketer. I've learned to market my own business, but I see homeowners struggling with occupancy, and and it's project management too. That's really all it is. I'm like, you just need a system. Just follow your lead from the time they call to. So it's not about being a PhD in senior living. It's just about knowing more than most people. And it's your relationships that are going to win people over anyway, in the end.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Nick and Chloe.
Cool. Hey, Jana.
Hey.
I really liked your talk. A couple things. I think Ken had a question about like where to find the older adult children, and y'all answered that really well, but I just wanted to throw a couple of extra tidbits in. Have been members of our local chambers of commerce, and we found a lot of like professional people there who maybe not necessarily the retired people in their 70s and 80s, the younger children like our age, late 40s, early 50s, things like that. So we've had a lot of good success there. And I would say too, like fundraisers and organizations that are centered around senior topics. Like for us, it would be, you guys probably know I'm a geriatrician, so I do a lot of like dementia education, and I'm involved in like knowing all the healthcare people. But even if I weren't, there's a lot of social fundraisers that happen, not just through the chamber, but like the Mind Center where I work. Every year they do like a wine tasting fundraiser where you can go and meet adult children, but also professionals in the space and kind of network and mingle. And I would just say maybe to reach out to like dementia organizations. The Alzheimer's organization is like everywhere. I think it's like alz.org, and they're nationwide. And so there's always events like walks and things like that where you could go and just get involved in those kind of things to find those people, I would say. And then one thing I noticed, like you said, you've only been doing this since August, but you have a very calm, measured speaking voice, which I really like. And I think that puts people at ease who are already like really stressed out. And I do a lot of talks too, but I find I talk really fast like I am now, and I talk with my hands, and I just need to calm down and relax like you have and just exude that confidence. Like, you know, your stuff because you've done the work, you've done the research. This is what you do all day. And I think for us to position ourselves as leaders, we just have to have that confidence too. And like you said, just know a little bit more than the average person. So excellent talk. Sorry, didn't mean to ramble.
Thank you. No, I love the suggestion of the chamber. That's something I'm exploring for next year as well. So yeah, I hope it will be fruitful. I went to a couple free events where you can check it out, and exact demographic, late 40s, early 50s, business owners, professionals. So yeah, great comment. I have a calm voice from working in memory care. So the more calm I stay, the more calm the residents stay. And then in my corporate career, everyone was always like, if Jana's riled up, something's really wrong. So, yeah.
That's a good quality. Yeah, and I would just another thing that I noticed just at the Phoenix conference was when it lends itself to the idea of the education and the certification versus just having the ability and building relationships. The lady that spoke and gave the gemstone color talk, trying to remember her name.
Deepa?
I'm at a loss.
Tifa.
When she showed us the videos of the first situation where the lady basically really mistreated the senior and just flipped the lights on, went in and aggressively picked him up and threw their legs to the side of the bed and basically pushed them into the bathroom and then they fell, versus the way she did it and like calm, took her time, took a total of like 10 extra seconds, but the care and intention that she did it with was so impactful. And I was like, man, through that 10-minute clip of the two different things, I certainly don't know everything I need to know about taking care of a patient, but man, am I way more prepared now. And that's a form of training that certainly doesn't give me any qualification on paper, but I feel like I would be much better prepared for actually providing some care. So I don't know, that's just an interesting thing that I got out of that one.
Aaron, how did Teepa trick you? It says Teepa tricked me every which way from Sunday.
Let's see. I went to introduce myself, and there was a whole group of us, RAL Room knuckleheads, and I think I asked her a question about one of the situations that she was playing on stage, and she more or less just immediately went into the role play, assuming that I would jump in, and I had no choice but to jump in.
Yeah.
And but she switches in and out of character very quickly. But one of the things she was doing is trying to emulate, like, what if the person that you're introducing yourself to, even if you're just coming in to give them something, doesn't recognize you? And she played that role, and
Yeah.
I'm not used to that. So it made me realize too that my reactions were I did not have control of my reactions to her simulated behavior. So that gave a second dimension to, okay, yes, you have to learn how to relate to other people, but you also have to learn how you are behaving and the signals and tones that you're giving off.
Yeah. That's cool. Any other questions?
I would ask if you could share your presentation. Would you be willing to share the presentation with the group?
I was just going to say that.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't want to take your...
I'm happy to share all of them. The senior living one is more like the other one's on breath work and one's on nutrition. I don't know if people want those, but happy to share as examples of what you could do. But the care levels, happy to share. People can modify it for their state type of thing, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that from what I was thinking is, man, this is such a great deep dive on the Scottsdale, Arizona region. And Scottsdale is a template for the rest of the country because it's so much, I feel like it's pretty mature in its senior care at the residential level. But it's good things for everyone to look at in every market that they can look at almost like a rubric and fill in the blank for their market that they can start digging into themselves. I think it'd be super beneficial to see that.
Awesome. Nick and Chloe, for sure, I can share breath work. I can do a breath work class for this group. We're all going to probably need it eventually.
That would be awesome.
Now that I know you're a geriatrician too, we probably have some stories to share because I've worked with some really awesome geriatricians and we've experienced some great things. I worked for a skilled nursing facility that was a closed model, so they had on-site providers, physicians and mid-level providers, and it was the best group of providers I've ever worked with. Very practical, very so many great stories, and just their ability to meet older adults where they are and help improve their quality of life. It's awesome. I loved that closed skilled model because it's not common.
We have 8 minutes left. I want to make sure Pat gets to ask her question.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I had a question as much as feedback. So first, I am with Nick and Chloe. I definitely want to learn more about the breath work. I practice breath work often, and as much education as I give on care and dementia care and all the things, I've never experienced breath work with people with dementia. So I'd love to learn more about that. But I wanted to comment and just say how I think it's really insightful and amazing that you've chosen to go into the community with education. What I've learned being in the industry is that, first of all, the knowledge gap is so wide. And where I see it most is what is the difference between independent living, assisted living, memory care, and then to home care, hospice, home health. And I think that unscrambling that web is genius of you, because when you become that trusted expert, although
Mhm.
something may not flip right there from that initial meeting, what I found is that when families get into that corner and they don't know what they're looking at or what to do with it, they start reaching for that person that knows it. So I think that you're positioning yourself in a very genius manner. So kudos to you. And thank you for sharing your genius, your expertise.
Oh, that makes my heart very happy. I think it helps that I love talking about these topics because I'm not extroverted. I'm very introverted, but I do love what I do. And I want to be successful in my business. And if this is what it takes, then I'm gonna become the best presenter so that I can keep my business growing. No more corporate America for me. So
I have a theory that the introverted people that can tap into the extroverted realm are the best presenters. You did a really good job tonight. I'll echo all the comments.
thank you. Great. And I finished early, which is great too. Are we gonna stay on
Yeah,
here?
I guess we saved 5 minutes.
Or
I will, if there's no more questions, then please feel free to butt in. I'll just say, everyone have a very Merry Christmas. We're not going to have another call until January 3rd after the new year. So just, if you're getting that itch, just go back and watch a recording, but we won't have any more live calls until January 3rd in the new year. We're so excited for 2026 in the RAL Room and the whole community. So can't wait to go through 2026 with you guys. I feel like we've come so far as a community in the last year, and it's only going to go up from here. So really excited. We'll kick the new year off strong with a January 3rd call.
yeah, it's just around the corner, so not far away at all.
Oh yeah.
Thank you guys so much for allowing me to present, and yeah, have a great Christmas.
Yeah,
And I'll send all the presentations and everyone can use them however they want.
that'd be awesome. Feel free to post them on RAL Room, the school page, or you can email them and we can throw them out from there. Aaron, did you want to make any announcement? I saw you come off mute for a second. I guess the pod leaders now know. Everyone knows who the pod leaders are now. I don't know if you want to make any announcement. I don't feel like you have to.
Only insofar as sharing that Jana is one of many awesome pod leaders that were recently elevated to just provide their perspective. And it's a really great group. We did a little intro post, I think it was yesterday, that shared a little bio on everyone. But we got a very diverse range of experience and people spread all over the country. And I really appreciate everyone's effort leaning in and being willing to help run the pods. It's such an important part of the experience in the RAL Room. So excited to get those booted up in the new year as well. And I think most of the people on this call are in one. If you're not, now is probably the very last time that we could potentially squeeze you in. So if you're not, or if you know somebody that's not that wants to be, just reach out to me directly, please.
Yeah, super pumped to be pod leader.
Yeah. Oh, somebody coming over?
Yeah, question, we're on the road driving. Will this be posted in the call thing before the end of the year? Because it made me realize I have a lot to work on to even be like a white belt presenter, let alone like an expert in California. So this is like hugely helpful actually for stuff I should do before I start putting myself out there as a person in this world.
Yeah, man. Jana, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be able to get this out soon.
Oh yeah, we can do this right after even. Before I log off my computer, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, don't look at it while you're driving, Ken, but we'll be able to get that out there for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank
Ken,
you.
also,
go
I'm pretty knowledgeable about California, so happy to connect with you further about the care levels in California.
Yeah, when you said California and Arizona, I was like, wow, like perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys appreciated this. I love talking about it, so I'm glad it was helpful.
Very much. Thank you, Jana, and thanks for everybody being here tonight. And have a great Christmas and a happy New Year. We'll see you on the 3rd.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Merry Christmas.
Thank you for tuning in to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is the RAL room.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks. And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey. Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.